Hi, I want to talk about some stuff in cosmology and its relationship to many events in the in daily life or also into economics. Anyhow, there was a study, a medical study that some doctors they did. I was reading about it, and they were studying rats and how much the consumption of food will affect rats' lifespan. Anyhow, after they completed their study, they found out that the rats that were very well fed, they were very much entertained, they, they didn't live as long as rats that had a kind of rough life, and they even went through periods of hunger. And these other rats, they were leaner, and also they were more agile, and also not only that, they also lived much longer than the well-fed rats. Well, the a lot of millionaires, they after they become rich, having a mediocre kind of life, then they develop depression. They start looking for meaning in life, and they cannot find it in material possessions, and so they become really depressed. And some go on drugs, others commit suicide, or they take depression pills. So that brings us to this discussion that meaning is very important in the world. And also it's also very important in quantum physics and cosmology, because when people lose their connection to the meaning, or if they're living a life that's not righteous, then when that meaning is lost, or it doesn't correspond to the inner code, then they develop very strange problems. Well, I had a video, it was called Consciousness, Meaning, and Deja Vu. Okay, well, if we take consciousness as the universal consciousness that really constructed this world, okay, then I'm using the word she, okay, there is a reason I'm using this word. She had intent and meaning, okay, so this meaning is very important because this was the reason that the universe was constructed. And well, then one could kind of conjecture that, how do I live to be according to this God's plan, or this inner code, or moral blueprint. If I don't live according to this code, then the the intent of the creator, the intent of the universe that created this place is not fulfilled, and then there is a conflict, inner conflict. Well, Imam Ali. I don't know if you don't know Imam Ali, you really missed out. He's kind of like one of the major founder of religion of Islam, and many of the teachings and encoding of Sharia was done by Imam Ali. Even putting Quran together and the ordering of the chapters was his work. Anyhow, he was saying that before God created the universe, before he created knowledge or intelligence or mathematics, any of this stuff, he first created love. That means if it wasn't because of this love, this devotion, this belonging, this, then the whole universe would not have existed. Actually, there is another verse in Quran. It says, "Kuntu kanzan makhfiya." I was a hidden treasure, and I wish to be known. This is like the desires of the Creator, and this blueprint, it shows up in many places, in economics, in relationships, in marriage, and also when the sciences or the mathematics progresses, it starts in a reductionist systems. Everything is broken down into pieces, and then the relationship between these pieces. But as it progresses, then more and more hints of this spiritual side of even elementary sciences or pure sciences, it shows up. In mathematics, it showed up when many mathematicians obsessed in constructing axioms that were infallible, that you could, out of these axioms, build up mathematical structures that there wouldn't be any kind of conflict or any false statements that could be constructed out of these elementary axioms. But then they found out when Gödel proved with his incompleteness theorem that no matter how you pick these axioms, you will have false statements that you could construct in this mathematical system. So then that kind of then later mathematicians kind of came up with that, hey, there is consciousness, and these mathematical axioms or structures, they are really the construct of this consciousness, and this consciousness is really the originator, the thing that built this thing. Actually, this concept also is referred to Islamic philosophy. What Prophet Muhammad said, whatever your mind constructs, say you construct Euclidean geometry, okay, in your mind, and prove all these theorems and whatnot, then this is a creation of your consciousness. And even if you construct it حتی به ادق معانی, even in the most exquisite detail, and this is the very best axioms you could find, this itself is like a ghost, is like a ghost in the machine, is a creation. It will fall back onto you. Then at some point you will discover that this system is not complete. Actually, your consciousness is a richer and is a more complete system. Well, there is a discussion in Sufism that really the material world is like the bottom world, is the very worst place that there could exist, and there are higher realms. That really the consciousness is in these higher realms. It constructs the plans, or it constructs this its own universe out of another material, and then it kind of projects itself into the material world. Just like you could, in your consciousness or in your mind, you could create uh, entire geometric system, entire mathematical system. You could construct linear spaces. You could construct n-dimensional geometries. But this was not made in this world, in the material world. It was made elsewhere. That there is such an elsewhere. Well, in mathematics, they call this Platonia, which is like a higher world where mathematical constructs they live. For example, mathematicians would say that the number pi exists in this Platonia, or number e, irrational number, exists in there. It is not something that's in the material world. In the material world, it would just be like a manifestation of this ethereal being. And well, well then one could extend these arguments that many processes and relationships that exist in the material world is really a reflection of this higher world. Well, I want to tell you about my psychic experience. I had this several times. Well, you know how you sleep. I dreamed of my father, and in this dream, I saw, and these images they are like a million times more vivid than anything that I could see with my eyes. I saw a beautiful place like paradise, and there was this a small rivulet. I was looking at the water. It was so vivid, it was beautiful, and it was flowing down this river. There was beautiful trees, and my father said that this place is so much better than where you're at. This is like, I hope that's not the premonition of anything bad, but I cling to the material world, to all the little crap that makes me happy here. But what I'm saying is that the life here, the animals here, the beings here, we are simply a reflection of this ethereal world, that's the eternal world. Then this experience also repeats in many different forms. Or usually when I have a dream, I'm dreaming of our world, a material world, it is represented as if it is a prison. I've had this dream several times. It's a very oppressive prison. And well, I had one that I was going from tank, what the tank means. It's like a big hall where they keep everybody, and then there's other tanks. Anyhow, well, if you don't know what that means, well, you haven't missed much. Anyhow, this kind of repeats itself. But this brings us to a kind of an ultimate discussion that money could have many different meanings. It doesn't have to be just in the form of currency or a digital currency. Actually, money could have a completely different form, and money is not the same thing to different people. For example, well, I'm a great womanizer. I know that paying attention to women and courting her is a form of money to women. A lot of women just basically live for that. But this is not the only kind of money. And say at some point in our civilization we enter zero marginal cost society where the cost of commodities, the cost of cars or services, it collapses. It becomes meaningless or worthless or worth a lot less. I know that many capitalists, they hate to hear these ideas because it sounds like communism. Well, it is communism or extreme socialism. But this can happen and actually has happened to many segments of society or many segments of economy and many segments or forms of commodities and things that we use. And then in a future, the money could be have a very radically different form that you would never imagine something like this could be really money, but it is. Well, I wanna go over some of the ideas before I finish up with how different forms of money might look like in the past or really might look like in the future. But some people they have these kinds of monies. For example, at the times of the Romans, when the Roman Empire was dying, there was really two forms of money. One was the coins, usually cheap metal, was like their pennies or dollars, and it was really like a fiat currency, and people traded. It had some silver in it, but then there was another. The rich people, they didn't have this kind of money, or they didn't keep it as much of it. What they really kept was silver or just gold coins that weren't clipped, or land, or slaves. They were forms of money. Well, I'll mention some of the forms in ancient times that were money, and if you saw them, you wouldn't really recognize that. Well, some places they still have them. One form of money in the past was having political power, like a sultan or the mother of the Shah. She had a lot of power. For example, in the my ancestral dynasty, Qajar, the mother of Shah was really important because she had Shah's ear. He would pay attention to her. If there was a concern, if you went to her and she looked with favors upon you, then really the state was looking upon you with favors. So this is a form of money. Another form of money that exists in Iran now, many people aren't really familiar with this form of money, is the power of religion. Well, in the ancient times or medieval times, the fact that people would go into church and receive communion and solace is from the concerns of the world. These spiritual experiences, it was a form of gratification, which is really a form of money, and then the people would enrich the clergy. Well, it wasn't the clergy that gave them the solace, it was God, but there was an indirect relationship. Actually, what I think is really money is anything that can bring satisfaction and grace or gratitude or fulfillment in your psyche, in your soul. So when I went to temple last week and God gave me communion, well, at the end I was thanking him, thank you very much. I really didn't deserve it, but I'm so lucky you look on me with favors. I felt this connectedness. This is valuable. This is money. Well, in the past, A lot of religious teachers and prophets, they get they get killed. For example, the stuff that the, the the kings or sultans want from these people, and they kill them for them, are very strange. One form of money is homosexuals, that they want to pursue corrupt or immoral lifestyle, or pedophiles, and they want at the same time society, the government, the courts, the neighbor, to accept them as part of society, even though their lifestyle is very destructive or ruins other people. This is and when they encounter opposition in society, any mechanism, even a king that gets them out of bind, any form of legalization, any form, this is money. This is like lobbying for something that you want, which is immoral and decrepit, but you want it. This is just a form of money, and they're willing to kill people for that. They want satisfaction. This is exactly the same thing as when I get my check and I go cash it in Walmart and get the cash. I know I can pay bills or do many things. There's satisfaction in my soul that I worked and I got this and everything's resolved. But what happens in the soul is what matters. Is ultimately what many humans want, and what brings out the satisfaction is money. It, you might not recognize it as such. Well, we know drugs, hashish is a form of money, but it's kind of hard for general public to see that. But the addicts, they know that this is money. Well, usually, sometimes the Sufi master talks about prosecution of spiritual teachers. We know Jesus got crucified, but he wasn't the only one. Many teachers, many spiritual teachers, they also get killed, or they got decimated. This makes you wonder, why would somebody want to kill like a spiritual teacher? It's because in many places in the government, for example, the Saudi king wants to have legitimacy, wants the public, the guy next door, anybody, to accept him as a legitimate governor or person. And when their excesses, when their criminality, it conflicts with this desire for legitimacy, because legitimacy is important to continue to govern. For example, Imam Hussein, the grandson of Prophet Muhammad, he got killed with all his family, 72 people. And the only thing Yazid, the ruler at the time, wanted from him is to just consent, say that his rule is fair. He didn't do that. He didn't want to do that because he didn't believe that. Well, this has gone on for many decades. Well, I personally think that it's very strange that segments of human societies, they continuously come to me or go to other teacher and continuously badger him. For example, many homosexuals, they continuously confront me to justify their lifestyle and that this is moral and legal. Right now, the government has also said that this is good. Well, this extends to other things like gambling, and also we can see it in financial fraud. Well, I'm not an expert in that area. Kaiser report kind of goes over it, but this desire to commit crimes, be an extreme deviant, and then at the same time continue to live in society, have a religious authority or a spiritual teacher, or kind of rubber stamp all this crap. It's very strange. And in fact, many teachers and many prophets, many saviors, they get the gallows because they said no. Uh, well, another one I remember, I have read in New Testament that Herod had John the Baptist killed because he had married his wife, and then he had an interest in the sister of his wife, and then Herod said that this is immoral, and he first imprisoned John the Baptist and then had him killed too. And it went on. Jesus himself, had, many people were impressed by him. He had influence, and he wasn't rich or anything, but the clergy at the time, they were jealous of his influence, and they had him killed too. Well, the Sufi master was talking about this event. He does talk about uh, other people who have been prosecuted. Well, he was saying that in the literature, well, this is not in the Bible. Actually, Bible is only one of many Bibles, and there is also a kind of folk culture or narrative that some of it is not Christian. Well, in the Islamic world, there is some stories and narratives about Jesus too. And Sufi master, he was wondering how much money did Herod, no, how much money did Judas the priest get for turning Jesus in, having crucified? And he was saying that at the time, if you wanted to convey a very large sum of money, was very, very much controlled by the clergies, the Jewish clergy, and they would make a plate. It was a wooden plate. It was like a flat plate, and they would carve off a declaration that was signed. They had to carve it in this wood. I don't know what kind of a special wood it was. It had raised leather. Said that the council of elders or whoever had granted Judas this amount of money. It would be hard to duplicate that such a letter. Plus the signatories, there were significant people. They personally knew that this money is owed in such a fashion. Well, that was a very large sum of money, and the Sufi master said that translating this money to our money today, it roughly translates to about $1 million. So Judas really sold Jesus at the tune of $1 million. Well, that's kind of like conjecture or folks stories about this event. But it shows the interesting forms of money, and also that influence, or the fact that somebody can inspire many people, is really a form of money. It exists. One last one and it really shows that money can take a different form, and it's a reflection of what happens in your soul. In Zarathustrian culture, they say that when a woman and a man fall in love with each other, it's like there's some energy that transfers between these two. It's not a one-sided kind of deal. They really both fall for each other. So it's like some form of money has transferred, something like that. And usually in many cultures, when these two people they both know that this has happened, then the man gives her something very valuable, like a piece of gold or silver or stuff, and is this signifies a contract. Really, it's a reflection in our material world of a contract. And when a woman has already married a guy in Iranian culture, when she's going to his house, she takes from father house all the accoutrements, all the things that she needs, like dishes and pans, and they sometimes take carpets, stuff to, goods, whatever you need. Well, in Iran these days, usually the bride's father buys her, if they are wealthy, they buy her a condo, but if not, they buy all the things that she needs in the new house, something like that. And well, thank you for putting up with me, my theories, strange theories. Uh, Please subscribe and leave a comment. I appreciate your audience.